have zero expectations of others and high standards for yourself. Enough of this idea that everybody just gets to decide and just be happy and make yourself happy and go out and get yours. That's the problem. Because if my happiness is the sole objective of my life, then I can morally screw anyone else over as long as I'm happy and I got mine. And I don't agree with that. Kip, what's up, man? So great to see you. We are starting the year off right and strong. So glad to have you here, man, to do this Ask Me Anything.
Amen to that, brother. I'm feeling great. How you feeling? You ready for Q1?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I had a good weekend. I'm a little banged up and sore because I have this reoccurring thought that I can actually keep up with my oldest son in athletics and feel okay about it. So, you know, I can hold my own when it comes to performance, but man, my body feels it after. So last week he challenged me to he just came over one day and he's like, "Dad, let's go play pickleball. I can beat you." And I'm like, "You can't beat me at pickleball." He's like, "No, I absolutely can. I've been practicing." I'm like, "No." He's like, "When's the last time you played?" I'm like, "I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago when we played." He's like, "Oh, I'll smoke you." I'm like, "All right, bring it on." And we went, and my neighbor's got an indoor pickleball court, so he lets us use it. So we went over there, and I smoked him 3-0. And he's like, "What? How's this happening?" I'm like, "I'm just more athletic than you. Like, I can just get off the couch and do it." And he's like, no. And so this weekend he wanted to challenge me to a lacrosse competition. And I'm like, "Are you sure that's your sport? Like, you don't want to lose in your own sport to me. Are you sure about that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll beat you. I promise I'll beat you." I'm like, "All right." So we went and we did 3 competitions. So we did precision accuracy on shots, long range shots, and then face-offs. And he won the precision accuracy and I won the long shots. So we did the face-off and we went 2-2. And he won the last one and made me look really foolish on the last one. And so he won the lacrosse tournament yesterday. But my hip,
but you're paying. I was going to say, you're paying the price today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My hip and back are just banged up, just brutal. So yeah, this week we're going to do 12 competitions for over the next 12 weeks. So 10 more weeks. And whoever picked the last one, the next person picks so we'll do upper body strength training this week. And I should be able to have that one pretty handedly, but we'll see. He's getting big and strong, so we'll see how it goes.
I love it. Well, we got some questions from Facebook, facebook.com/group/order of man. You good if we jump into these?
Yeah, let's get right to it, man.
All right, man. Bryce Beatty, what tips and tricks do you recommend for a leader who struggles with asking questions instead of making demands and statements? What recommendations do you have for asking better questions without them seeming leading or like gotcha questions?
Do you think that Bryce is talking about him being a leader or wanting another leader to be that way instead of more authoritarian in his approach?
No, I think he's talking about him. Like, how does he have these questions where he doesn't come across like he's leading them or these are gotchas, right?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. When you're leading or using these gotcha questions, it usually comes from a place of you already knowing the answer.
Yeah.
So if I'm leading you towards something, it's because I already have a predetermined outcome in my mind that I want you to adhere to, but I want to manipulate and massage you into a way of quote unquote coming up with it yourself. And that's the problem. It's not the questioning. It's the motive behind the questioning. It's the baseline behind the questioning. That's why energy is so important. And I'm not talking about your physical capacity, that type of energy. I'm talking about the energy that you bring into interpersonal dynamics. So if you're on a date, for example, and you're desperate, you could say the exact same things as to the exact same woman as a man who's not desperate. And she will feed off that energy and know that, oh, this guy is just reeks of desperation. That's the energy. If you go into an employee-employer situation or a manager-subordinate situation and your energy is, I know the answer, I'm going to manipulate these guys to come up with a solution themselves, they're going to read that energy. So what is the solution? Very simply, change your energy and it will automatically change the questions. What's the energy? Curiosity.
Yeah.
You have to actually be curious about what they think. You have to actually be open to the idea that maybe they have a solution that you haven't considered before. And the more that you do that, the more they're going to feel valued. They're going to feel appreciated. They're going to want to follow you because you're humble in the way that you approach leadership. And look, sometimes you're just going to have to give directives. Hey guys, we're doing this way for this reason. And what's the best way do you guys think about implementing this? So you can still ask questions, but that's how I would do it. And that's how I have done it. And I have practice every day because of the podcast where I'm a curious individual by nature, but also I've practiced and honed the skill set of being curious. And questions will generally and naturally get better when you really are curious about a person.
Yeah. And a lot of curiosity is rooted in humility, right? If I have a strong ego around a way that I believe someone should show up, then I'm not going to be curious. You have to get kind of humble a little bit and go, hey, you know what? I don't know. I think this, but maybe I'm wrong. And the mindset that I'm bringing into this is one of curiosity and humility. I think when we're overly arrogant, we have this strong opinion of I know best, they don't, me versus them. And then it's all manipulation. This is why, Ryan, I hate so much leadership development and books, because most of them focus on the tactics. They go, oh, you want someone to trust you? Oh, do these tactics, manipulate, coerce, more or less be honest, do these things and people will. And it's like, or you know what you could do is just be trustworthy. What you could do is actually just believe in people and shift your mindset and be rooted with proper intent. And then the tactics aren't tactics of manipulation. They're just tactics to help clarify how you already feel. But to your point, if our intentions are off and we're trying to do one thing that's out of alignment with the intentions that we have, people sniff it out. We know those people that are not authentic, that are lying to some extent, or they're manipulating, and there's alternative motives. It's horrible. It's yucky, and most people feel it.
Yeah. Yep. I fully agree. You know, and it is, I really like the idea of focusing on tactics. This is what, and again, it's easy to see in so many aspects of life, whether it's professional or in the dating space. You see that in the dating space too, is you have these pickup artists and they're like, well, just say these things. It's like, bro, if you say those things and you don't have the right energy, you're going to sound creepy. But if you say the exact same things with the right energy, you're going to sound flirtatious and funny. So I think the real question is, how do you get to, maybe the better question is, how do you get to that stage of curiosity and humility? I don't know the answer to that, actually. I think other than knowing that, like, having faith and belief in people, I think is a big one. There's a lot of pessimists out there where they just, you know, if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. And I can't find good employees, and millennials are this and Gen X is that. And we just have been so conditioned to be pessimistic through these little devices that we carry around every day. And so everything looks like a crap show. Every employee looks like a piece of trash. Every person out there looks like an oversensitive little crybaby. And it's not the case. We just see it. But if you go interact in the real world, go to the grocery store, walking down your neighborhood, wherever, out at the ballpark at a game, like, the overwhelming majority of people that you come in contact with are good, decent, hardworking people. They want to make a living. They want to provide for their family. They want to have a few experiences, and they want to be fulfilled in life, period. That's what the overwhelming majority of people want. And if you start to embrace that idea, instead of looking at everything as they're just out to get me, or they're only going to work as hard as their income, and you start believing that people are good and decent and have experience and have knowledge and have ideas, then I think we're more likely to not be so directive in the way we lead and more inquisitive and curious about what they might bring to the equation.
Totally. A quote that comes to mind is, most critical thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. It's a form of lazy thinking, right? You want to get humble and not lose your humanity in someone. Critically think. Humans do things for a reason. What's the root cause of it? What's driving the behaviors, right? It's way more complex than you realize. And I think, actually, to be honest with you, Ryan, is I feel often we're overly critical of people because we're overly critical with ourselves. If you're not self-aware enough to understand the elements by which drives your behavior, you're not going to have that level of empathy and open-mindedness towards others.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an area to practice, is like, what's driving this behavior? Why am I upset? What, drives self-awareness. And that gives us some grace, I think, when we start looking at other people, understanding the human condition, that there's a lot of things and a lot of variables that go into what people do or why they don't do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I just watched a video on Instagram this morning. It's actually pretty funny. It was a man ice fishing in what looked like a blizzard, and it must have been northern Minnesota, northern Maine, or somewhere in Canada, probably Canada.
Yeah.
And the guy's got a warm jacket on, no beanie or toque, I think they call it in Canada, no gloves. And there's a guy on, it must have been a dirt bike with studded tires. It didn't show, but I'm sure it was a dirt bike with studded tires. And he's just ripping around this lake, on the ice.
Yeah.
And he turns around and he comes over and he's like, hey. And the guy who's ice fishing is like, hey man, do you think that's bringing the fish in? And the guy on the dirt bike was like, oh, you want me to F off? And the guy fishing said, yeah, would you? And he's like, oh, sorry. And he said, no, it's cool, brother. Like, it's a cool bike. Like, it's really rad. Are those studded tires? What tire pressure do you have? And the guy started asking questions. And the guy's like, hey, I'm sorry. I'll just go ahead and leave you alone. He's like, I love your bike. I think it's awesome, but it's not bringing the fish in. And the guy went back to fishing, and the other guy went and found somewhere else to rip around the lake. And it was such a cool example of just being normal and just having a little grace, not trying to be upset or bothered by anything, and just live and let people do their thing, be decent and kind to each other, and just let yourself roll with the punches. I think that goes to what you were saying about not only affording other people grace, because the guy who was ice fishing did afford that guy grace.
Yeah.
And the guy who was dirt biking afforded the other guy grace. And I thought it was just a great example of how men could resolve minor issues that could turn catastrophic very quickly.
Yeah. Talking about cold weather, do you see the hoodie scenario with Origin?
Oh, yeah.
Super hilarious.
I actually sent Pete a message. Well, I thought it was AI. I at first, and I just I think I liked it, but I just scrolled through it because I thought it was funny. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Nicolas Maduro, when he was captured, somebody must have thrown that hoodie on, that hoodie on. Yeah. And
I'm assuming it's one of the guys that captured him. It's their hoodies.
I'm sure.
And they threw one of their hoodies on him. Yeah.
And so Pete, the founder of Origin, made this post, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then Brecken told me, my oldest son told me, he's like, hey, did you see that thing with him wearing the Origin hoodie? I'm like, that was fake. He's like, no, it was real. And I went back and I started looking at it and looking through all the comments, and 100% real. That hoodie's not even released, so I don't know how he got it. But I sent Pete a message. I'm like, whoever put that hoodie on that guy, get him on payroll in the marketing department ASAP. And he just laughed.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, Roger Byers, what quality in yourself are you most proud of?
I'm relentless. That's it. I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to stop. It gets me in trouble sometimes. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But there's a phrase in Latin, and I don't know how to say it in Latin, but it's I will either find a way or make one. And if there's one way to sum up my operating system of life, whether it's personally or professionally, it's that. I will find a way or make one. And I'm undefeated. So not to say I haven't lost a few matches or bouts here or there, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm here. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm most proud of. But again, I want to say that if I'm not careful, it's like an unbridled, Mustang out on the range running himself right off the cliff because he doesn't know how to hit the brakes. And I need to be careful of that sometimes. I need to be more aware of when should I not be relentless? When should I stop pursuing? When should I pivot or switch gears? Or how can I acknowledge red flags and potential threats sooner and not just go balls to the wall and maybe ease off the throttle a little bit when appropriate, and then I can press back on the throttle when I'm in a different position. So what's my greatest strength is probably also my greatest weakness.
Yeah. Isn't that true? I mean, I think it's true for all of us. We did some 2026 planning. We're talking about, our strengths in 2025 and bad habits. And I can't help but see the correlation constantly between the two things. In fact, I was even having this conversation with the wife around, the pivot that I've made recently from an employment perspective. And she's like, I don't know why it took you so long. And I'm like, well, babe, as much as that's annoying to you that it took me a while to pivot, that's also my quality. I kind of grind. I make sure I don't give up when it gets hard. Now, same breath, I might grind out too long and I should have pivoted much quicker than I should have. Right. But, but it's so true.
Your dynamic is so interesting to me, yours and your wife's, because you're aligned, of course. You wouldn't be together and have the successful marriage that you do without being aligned. But your personalities are so different to me based on what I see. And I'm sure there's some similarities, but with what I see, I'm like, how do these two deal with each other? Like, how do they love each other? When their personalities are so different? It's hilarious to me, actually.
Totally. Well, and what's fascinating about it, Ryan, is in the earlier years, I hated it. It bothered me. It really bothered me. It was a form of contention until I saw the blessing of it and thought, you know what? The fact that I have a wife that wants zero stability in life and wants to just have fun is the very thing I need to have fun. And the grind and the stability that I bring to the relationship is what she needs, so she's not homeless. And instead of demonizing each other, right? Instead of demonizing each other for those traits, we love it instead. And I say, I love that about it. And and I love that about you. And we realize that there's a balance, and it's the yin and yang of the relationship. And it's honestly, it's like my favorite part about a relationship now is those differences. It's fascinating.
No, it's really cool. Like I'm an observer of people and dynamics, and I like to see what makes people tick, and I like to see if I can identify what makes a person successful or unsuccessful, or what makes them operate the way they do. And I watch you in Asia, and I love the dynamic between you two, but it just cracks me up. I smile every time I see you two together because I'm like, this is crazy. I don't know how this works, but it works, and bless both of them because I'm sure you guys infuriate each other at times.
All right, Eddie Salcido, what ways to earn an income that's passive? What ways to have different streams of income? Maybe some, ideas.
Oh, man. Well, okay, so I don't want to be overly critical here, but again, the power of questions, right? Ask general questions, get broad general answers. Ask specific questions, get better, more specific answers. But, I think anything in actually, what I would say is just look at the things that you have an affinity for. Just look at the things that you have an affinity for and try to figure out how to streamline them. So, obviously you could say stocks, real estate, that sort of thing. Sure, that works. But what I think a lot of people overlook, and I'm going to give you 3 questions here to ask yourself in a minute, is that you can take anything that you do and you can turn it into passive income. And so here's the 3 questions I'd ask. Number 1, what are you doing when time moves the fastest? What are you doing when time moves the fastest? Number 2, what are people asking you for advice for repeatedly? And number 3 is, what would you do with your time if money were not an issue? And you can't say sit around on the beach and give me a real answer. You could do that for a weekend, and then you get bored. What would you do with your time? Would you travel the world? Would you go to try to see every Major League Baseball park in the country? Would you get good at shooting firearms or jujitsu? Would you learn how to paint? What would you do? And when you start asking yourself questions like that, you'll find some correlations between the answers to the three questions. And when you find that merging point, then you're onto something that you might not even acknowledge in yourself that you're good at. And this is how you often know you're overlooking some natural talent. When you discount what you do when somebody gives you a compliment. So let's say to me, Kip, you said, Ryan, you're so good at design. Man, everything that you put out there, I know.
Can we choose something that's a little bit more, I don't know.
Yeah, you're so good at growing a beard. Like your beard growing skills are amazing.
No, you're actually great at marketing, full disclosure. Yeah, but you have a great marketing eye. Absolutely.
So let's take that. And my natural inclination might be to dismiss that and say, oh no, man, it's nothing. Like everybody's like, nah, thank you, but no, I don't really feel that way, but I appreciate it. Now, you might just be trying to be humble, but I think most of the time you're discounting what you don't think is talent because you have it. You have it. And so if
who
people,
you are. Yeah.
Right. And it can be developed and articulated, but if people are telling you, oh my, I love to watch you build. I love to see what you build. Man, you're just really great at woodworking. Don't discount that. Embrace that fully and ask yourself, maybe I actually am good at this. Maybe I do know a thing or two, or maybe I do have an art or an eye for art or marketing, or I do have the aptitude for martial arts or whatever. But if you start discounting, then you're probably overlooking a God-given talent that you should lean into a little more than you currently are. Now, how do you make this passive? You teach other people how to do the thing. So if you're really good at martial arts and that's how you'd spend your time and people are asking for advice, well, you can either turn that into one-on-one coaching, group coaching, open a gym, but that's not really passive yet. You can make that passive by building the gym, having another coach come in and train, and now you're earning income when other coaches are training your students. Or the Gracies are really good at this, is they put together a video course on the basics of jiu-jitsu. And so him and his brother, I can't remember who it is. Who is it?
Are you talking about, who are you talking about? Henner?
Henner and what's his brother's name?
Horion. Horion, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but close.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, whatever it is. So those two, they're really good marketers. Really good marketers. And they put together an 8-week course or a 12-week course on the basics of jiu-jitsu, and they sell it as a course. They're not there. They recorded the videos, but they're not there doing it, and it just became passive. If you're really good at woodworking, put together a video course on the basics of woodworking and how to set up your tools and what tools you need to get started and what's the best tools for the job and how to build your first bench and how to use a router. And I only say that because I messed some crap up on my boat with a router the other day. And make a video, start posting on social media what you're doing. Now, there's nothing that's truly passive. And I want you to get that out of your head. There's not a button that you can go press and you're like, passive income, bing. Because if that button were there, everybody would have already pressed it and it would be meaningless at this point.
Yeah, it's still investment up front for it to be passive later of some sort, right?
So get ready to bust your tail. I mean, I did that with Order of Man. I had to bust my tail up front in order to create a profitable business and now this movement. But hopefully that gets you pointed and oriented in the right direction. I mean, I see people have done crazy stuff. One guy that comes to mind, it's not that crazy, but it comes to mind is John Dudley. He's a world-class archer and bow hunter. And he's got incredible courses for free, a lot of them for free. One's called the School of Knock on how to begin to get into archery and bow hunting. He has his own merchandise now. That's somewhat passive. He's got arrows and he does custom bows. So he used to be he used to go around and coach people on archery around the world and travel around the world and work with Olympians and world-class archers how to improve their archery game. And instead of doing that so much now, he turned it more into an online business, way more efficient, way more practical, and doesn't have to travel the way that he did before, which is freed his time up to bow hunt. So you could do it with anything. You just have to be a little bit smart about it, and you have to be diligent in getting it set up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. I've done consulting the majority of my career, and I've been exposed to, let me say it, a consultant is really good at identifying solutions to problems. And I have seen so many problems that are fascinating to me, like just fascinating. I remember earlier on in my career, I was a software developer. I ran a software development team for a firm in Phoenix. We had a client that literally built a business model on creating a blacklist of agents. Like if an agent owed money back to their previous employer, they would blacklist them. This individual would maintain the list and sell the list to other firms. That's all he did. He made a naughty list, and people were paying massive amount of money to check the naughty list before they bought. Like literally, they had clients like Prudential. They would go buy another firm, and they would check their naughty list against agents as part of the due diligence of purchasing an insurance company. Just fascinating to me.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
Like, yeah, find a problem, and that's always what I do is like, and maybe that's a little bit one-sided to this, but problems need solutions. Sometimes people dream and they're like, solution, and it's like, but it's not a big enough problem, right? And so I always like to say, identify a gap that excites you, and then put some effort towards addressing the gap.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
All right. Matthew Yant. I'm a man of faith, family, and pursuit of a life with honor. I wholeheartedly believe in the mission of Order of Man and the values and principles of this group. But with so much in recent years coming to light about government deception, media lies, and even churches who fall away from their convictions in the name of inclusion or to prevent members from leaving faith, as men, what outside of our core principles can we still hold on to as certainties? We see narratives spun to distract or influence action or inaction, and I struggle to find anything or anyone that is without reproach. Again, outside of our principles as good men, what can we still hold on to that is true?
Well, what was the last part you said, Kip?
As men, what can we still hold on to as true?
Oh, as true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, depending on where you're coming from, you have to ask yourself, you said you're a man of faith, so that's true. But I think for you, right? It's subjectively true. Now, I think you would say it's objectively true, but now that's talking about an appeal to a higher authority. So you can't say it's truth with a capital T, but it might be to you, and that's good. But you could lean on that. The Bible, I don't think the Bible is 100% accurate. It was translated and written by man. Now, some people say it's written by God. No, men wrote those words. Like, I know it was divine inspiration. I believe in that. But a lot of the stories and lessons from the Bible are historical accounts. And we know as human beings how accurate we are when we recall events that happened 2 days ago, let alone 200 years ago. So there's inaccuracies, but I'm probably going to get really tore up for that one, but it is what it is. That's the reality of it. And what I think you need to realize, and what I would caution you in, is it seems to me, Matthew, that you have set the bar too high in people. And I don't think that's right for yourself, and I don't think it's fair to them, because it takes away their humanity. Yeah, we all do really dumb things. We all say things that we regret. We are short-fused at times, and we lash out. We make bad decisions, but we're human beings with our own desires, selfish at times, and our own temptations, also selfish. And I wonder what life would look like for you if you just stopped setting the bar so high on other people. And you just decided that these core principles, kindness, empathy, love, honor, integrity, whatever your principles are true. And you fall short of them every day, and so does everybody else. And now, look, I'm not telling you that if somebody falls short on one of those virtues that you're obligated to maintain a relationship with that person. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think if you learn to see the humanity in things, you won't put so much stock in human beings. I think humans are incredible. We're inventive. We're protective. We want to find solutions. We want to build buildings. We want to go to space. We want to help overcome medical ailments. I mean, human beings are incredible creatures, and we're also horrible at the same time. I think this goes back to what we were saying earlier. Our greatest strength, the desire for advancement, for example, I think is one of our greatest strengths as a species, is also our greatest weakness because it causes us to leave a wake of collateral damage in our path sometimes, to take advantage of people, to cheat the system to get ahead. And so those are temptations we need to fight. So figure out what your truth is, what it is for you, and then find the people who align to that as closely as possible, and within reason afford them grace and dignity when they mess up, the same as you, and stop expecting human beings to be perfect. They're just not. So I'm trying to balance that with making sure that you protect yourself and the people around you. You don't want to expose yourself to any unnecessary risk, but I think it's okay. Let me say it this way. I'll paraphrase this in one quick sentence. Have zero expectations of others and high standards for yourself. And that's it. So when your church, let's say you're Catholic, when your church fails you, I have zero expectations of the way that those leaders within the church show up, but I have high standards for myself. So I'm going to keep working the way that I think is fit.
Well said. Ness Sojo, people's lack of self-control overall, wide spectrum. A larger and growing number of people are showing their inner child with contempt for others, sometimes even with I don't even know that word, with a bad attitude. Seemingly, as we're regressing as a society, there is less actual adults or just mature individuals. Maybe it's just a thought. I don't know what the question is, but.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of that. I think we are living in very degenerate times because, to go back to the question with Matthew, there is no personal standard for anyone. Everything is subjective. Yeah. Literally everything. Yeah. This is where that idea of moral relativism comes in, where morality is just relatively based on who's in power, who's saying what, who's the loudest, who has the most social media followers. If morality is relative, who gets to decide? And if that's the case, let's say for example, you believe that morality is relative and it's dictated by the government through laws enacted by our representatives. Well, then are you willing to acknowledge that if there's a law enacted that you don't agree with, that it is too moral? I don't think you would say that. Yeah. I think you'd say that's immoral because your morality comes from a different place. It's derived from God. And the institutions of objective morality are being dismantled piece by piece, deliberately, by the enemy and by the tools of the enemy, the government, academia, just culture, the entertainment industry, the medical community, piece by piece being completely dismantled. Because if everybody disagrees on what is moral, then who's right and who's wrong and what actually is? And that's a problem. We need to get back to the institutions like church, like neighborhoods. Yeah, I saw this picture. It was, I don't know if it was AI or not. It's getting harder and harder to tell, but it was a family in a cul-de-sac. It looked really real. It was a family in a cul-de-sac, and all the neighbors were out, and they put picnic benches in the cul-de-sac. And this is probably in like the 70s or something. And all the kids were playing, and they were having a barbecue, and everybody brought food. Like, when's the last time you did that, Kip?
Last year. Maybe we do it all the time.
And that's
set up
good.
The screen, we watch TV out there, but that's not normal, right? Like,
it's not a common thing.
We're intentionally doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some people do that through their church congregation, or they meet with Rotary or Chamber of Commerce or some other civic organization, and they get together. Even just friendships. I mean, the amount of men that have even a single friend they could call in a time of need is abysmal. And even the military, up until the last 6 months to a year, the military was like, come into the Army or come into the Marine Corps and find yourself. It's like, what? No. You don't go into the military to find yourself. You go into the military to be part of a bigger system than yourself. You're just one of many people, and you're to assimilate to that organization. And then even assimilation, you take immigration in general. We heard these clever little platitudes of diversity is strength, diversity is strength, diversity is strength. No, it's not. Diversity of thought could be strength. Diversity of thought, by the way, not immutable characteristics like your skin color. But diversity of thought could be a strength as long as you're all going in the same direction. But why would we continue to bring people into this country who hate the ideals of this country? You're telling me that just because they happen to look different or have a different skin color or speak a different language, that even though they are going in a different direction, that diversity makes us stronger? What a ridiculous sentiment. We need to begin to congregate in organizations like Order of Man, church congregations, community congregations, where you're all getting together and you're deciding that we're going to work together towards this set of principles, and this is who we are, and we're going to hold each other accountable to these principles. Enough of this idea that everybody just gets to decide and just be happy and make yourself happy and go out and get yours. That's the problem. Because if my happiness is the sole objective of my life, then I can morally screw anyone else over as long as I'm happy and I got mine. And I don't agree with that. And I also don't agree with complete collectivism. I believe in rugged individualism, meaning you're capable of taking care of your shit. But I also believe in the community. I believe in neighborhoods. I believe in congregations. I believe in tribes. We're supposed to operate that way. And the more that gets dismissed and dismantled, the worse it's going to get for all of us. Because we're all doing our own thing without a care in the world about how it might impact other people.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're using tribes. That's not changing. The question is like, are we intentional with the tribe that we're selecting? I mean, most people, they are part of a tribe. They're part of a political party. And whatever that party says, they're good with. Or they're part of, people have even given over their moral direction over to their employer. Oh, I'm going to work for Google. Why? Oh, because they take on these social issues, and now I'm just part of that religious group, right? Like they're attaching themselves. They're doing tribalization, right? They're being part of community, but they're not being intentional about it, right? And is that group centered on principles, or is it wavering just based upon political power or some other driving factor?
I agree to an extent, but I think more and more what we're seeing is we're seeing coalitions of tribes that, so for example, you take the LGBTQ thing agenda, and it's like, how many more people fit into that category and just lump together because they happen to agree on other aspects, but they think so even within the community, they can't agree on what is a woman, what is a man, what pronouns do we use? How do we describe ourselves? How do we not? Right. And what they would say is, well, we're all unique individuals. No, you're not. You're not all that special. I'm not all that special. I have special things to offer the world, but I'm not uniquely special. There's nothing inherently just amazing and special about me other than I'm a son of God. as is every other man, and every other woman is a daughter of God. So I think it's these coalitions to push an agenda or to even break things up even further. And then you'll notice infighting. And that's an indicator that they weren't aligned. They just aligned forces to push an agenda forward. It served their best interest. So, I mean, I kind of agree with you. And I also see the nuance
I see
in
the
it
distinction.
too.
Yeah, I see the distinction. All right, Joe Gunter, what is the vision behind the baseline physical aptitude test revamp? And what does this new workout plan and program look like? Drop some details.
So the baseline physical aptitude is something that we do inside the Iron Council, and we just released the new version 2.0, and it is amazing. Johnny Loretti, he's my nutritionist and fitness coach. He's also a member of the Iron Council, and he's on my battle team, put together this incredible program for helping men get fit and strong in the first quarter of 2026. The way it was before is we had 11 metrics, from bench press to pull-ups to farmer's walks to broad jump to sprint to mile run to squats to deadlifts, and there might be one or two other things I was missing in there. And the goal was to complete those tasks to a standard. And that was all it was, is just figure it out and do it. This iteration has a 12-week course attached to it, which gives workouts about how to train and exercise in a way that makes you holistically fit and strong. Again, conditioning, cardio, stamina, strength, flexibility, agility, explosiveness. So it's got everything in there. And the goal with that is to get as many men into treating their bodies like the tool and weapon they're meant to be. That's the vision. How do you take this sack of meat that we all have and make it as effective and efficient as possible? Now, I might have said, well, it's to get as many people to complete the thing as possible. That's not the mission. That's not the vision. The vision is a bunch of men who are capable, who are fit, who are strong, who have the energy and stamina and strength to lead and to protect and provide and take care of their families and love themselves and be fulfilled in life and chase meaningful things and overcome some temptations that maybe they've had with food choices or substance abuse, and really start to become the men that they're meant to be. And this is just one metric of it. You know, I have guys who are like, well, physical fitness isn't the only thing. No, I'm not saying that.
Of course not. But
it's a thing. It's part of the thing. And I think it's something worth addressing. So that's what that is. I'm very excited about it. And it's open right now. If you get access to it if you're in the Iron Council. So if you go to orderofman.com/Iron Council, you'll be able to see what the 12-week baseline physical aptitude challenge is, and you'll be able to get started right away with us. Very excited to get going.
Excellent. Patrick Frere, how do you let go of an emotion holding you back? I've been holding on to anger over an incident that happened months ago, not able to forgive. Locked in a cycle of anger prevents forgiveness, but not being able to release that anger because of every time I think of forgiving, I get angered again.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. I think my advice to you would be quite a bit different than the way that most people would describe it. I don't think it's wrong to be angry. I don't know what happened, but you probably have some level of legitimacy to your frustrations and anger. Whatever happened, there's probably something about it where you deserve, you're justified, I should say. You're justified in your anger. And I think most people would say, well, you don't want to be angry, because no, you can be angry. You should be angry. There's things to be angry about. There's things to be sad about. You know, I've been sad the last week or two, have some things in my personal life that I'm sad about. I'm like, I don't want to be sad. Well, I don't want to be, but I am. And that's the reality of it.
Be present with it. Yeah.
It just is. And our emotions are never the problem. Our reactions to our emotions are the problem. So if you're angry and you're lashing out and you're being aggressive or yelling or shouting or being short or being violent even, that is not an appropriate justification for your behavior, your anger. But if you use it to maybe be a little bit more aware of red flags with people in the future, to address problems when you see them and not wait too long before they actually become a problem. Or avoid putting yourself in unnecessarily risky, compromising situations with characters that are less than scrupulous. Then I would say that your response to your anger is actually a pretty worthy thing and a good thing. Now, regarding moving on, when you talked about forgiveness, I still think you might be wrapped up in the idea that if I forgive a person, it's to release that other person of the burden of what they did. And here's the reality of it. They may not even think they did anything wrong. They may not even know why you're angry or why you're so angry or if you're still angry. When you forgive somebody, it's for yourself. It's to release yourself of the burden of continuing to worry about that. And what you're doing is you're saying, I'm deciding that I'm going to move on. And that's one of the things that makes us so incredible as human beings. I can just decide today who I want to be just because it's today. Like no other reason. I could decide right now and say, you know what, this afternoon, I'm going to be this kind of person. And then you start doing what those type of people do. I had an interesting scenario where can't remember if it was December 30th or December 31st, I owed somebody an apology for some behavior. And I messaged this person. I haven't talked to them for, probably close to 2 years. And I said, I'm paraphrasing, but I said, hey, I've been holding on to this apology for way too long. And I acted like an idiot. I was not there for you when you were there for me. And I just wanted to tell you, I'm really sorry about that. You did not deserve that. You did not deserve that behavior from me. You deserved better. And I was really hoping that this person wouldn't respond, actually, because I didn't want to face anymore. I washed my hands and said, I've done what I can do. And I really didn't want them to respond, but they did. And I got a text and I saw it. I'm like, oh, my heart sank a little. I'm like, oh man, what is this going to be? And this person said, hey, I was really upset with you for a long time, but I think you're holding on to something that I forgave you of a really long time ago. And they had told me about some experiences that we had that were good and the way they felt. And we're very grateful. They said, hey, thank you for reaching out. I hope you have an amazing new year. I forgive you, but it means a lot to me that you would reach out and say that. That was really great of you. And even if that response would have went poorly, I still would have been released. And I know the shoe's on the other foot with Patrick here, but that person was able to move on with their life because they forgave me, even without me doing anything else. For years, I hadn't apologized. And they forgave me. That releases you. That unshackles you. It lets you go out into the world and make new relationships and create new experiences and start new businesses and be better at the things that you're currently doing. The question is, do you want to be angry all the time? And I hope the answer is no. And if the answer is no, then you need to let go of it. And you do that by forgiving somebody. Again, we go back to the humanity of the conversation we were having earlier. Yeah, that person messed up royally, screwed you in a big way, probably. Is being angry hurting them or getting them back? You're not even on their mind. No, it's only hurting you. So figure out a way to move forward with the forgiveness for yourself. Release yourself. It's the shackle. It's the key to your shackles, not theirs.
Yeah. And Patrick, as you look, as I read those questions, the cycle prevents me to forgive. Why? Why do you want to forgive? Because you're just supposed to, right? Like get present to, why you're seeking that. And then I'm a huge believer that most upsets are actually not in the circumstance. It's in the interpretation of it. And I can't count how many times I've had a conversation with someone where they're like, I'm irate, I'm pissed off. They said this. And I'm like, what they said and what you made it mean are two drastic different things. They didn't say that you're a worthless crap of, pile of crap. They didn't say that. They just said, I don't want to go. You created the upset. You created the interpretation of that you're so angry about. Now, obviously, we don't know the nuance here for Patrick. In some cases, it could be black and white. But in most cases, most of our upset is not the circumstance. It's what we made it mean. And so you want to get, as a tip, how do you forgive? Get present to the facts. Deal in reality. X happened. What did you make it mean? Or what was your interpretation of it? It's this. Holy shit, I'm mad. Why? Because I'm choosing to be. Because I made up half that story. That wasn't even their intent, right? I got screwed over as a byproduct of someone being overly stressed out about something else. And it really had nothing to do with me. And it's ironic, I don't know. It's just so much of our upset, so much of what drives us to do what we do day to day is rooted in what people think. And guess what? Most people aren't thinking about you. They're really not. They're so self-absorbed and worried about themselves, and there's collateral damage often. And sometimes we get hurt by others, not because they intended to. It's just because it was a byproduct of them being self-centered or worried about something else or their interpretation of what you did, and et cetera, et cetera. So you want the superpower of letting go of forgiveness is get clear on what happened and what you made it mean. And usually the upset is in the interpretation, not actually what happened.
Well, so, I'm also fascinated too, Kip, with why we want to be sad or mad. Have you ever felt that? Like you want to be?
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
It's so weird. We'll sulk around and we'll be mad or we'll be angry or we'll be sad. And on one hand, we're like, I don't want to feel this way. And on the other, you're like, no, I do. Like, I'm going to keep doing the things that make me feel this way. I'm going to keep revisiting the stories. Why do we do that? I think part of it is it justifies our behavior. Mm-hmm. It paints us as a victim, which means that something happened to me. I did not create this myself. And it often gets the attention of other people. Like, oh, Ryan, oh, you're so sad or you're so mad. Like, oh, and you get attention from it.
Yep.
And I think it's that trifecta that makes us just want to wallow in it, even though you don't have to be that way. You could make different choices. You could write a different story. You could craft a different narrative about what did or did not happen. Not an out of touch one, but something that maybe serves you better.
Totally. And the only thing I'd add to your trifecta is the desire to be right. We would rather be right and live into the narrative of being a victim than be happy. We be content with being miserable if it means defies my way of showing up in the world and I can be right. It's actually quite it's fascinating to me that we do this. And we as in all of us, I've done it.
Yeah.
Right? It feeds into my narrative. Woe is me, I victim. I don't have to take responsibility. And then people get to feel sorry for me. Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah. Wild. Cool. Right. What's next?
Brendan Bagden. What are some strategies or how do you manage yourself and others when people who are responsible for tasks and projects that impact your life repeatedly drop the ball, leaving you to hold the bag? This has been a reoccurring issue for me and better managing my response in Q1 connection quadrant goal.
It really depends on if it's professional or personal. If it's totally professional, you're going to be more limited on what you can do. But I still think you can be assertive. Kip, if you and I are peers and you drop the ball on something, I think it's completely appropriate to say, hey, Kip, can I talk with you about something? We had this project and I was going to do this and you were going to do that. And man, this might go back to our inquisitiveness. I really want to figure if everything's okay. Like, are you good? Because this isn't like you. And you did, if I'm being honest, drop the ball on it, which caused a delay in the entire process, not just for me, but the company. But I mean, we'll get to that. Let's table that for a second. More important, are you okay? right? And you might say, well, no, I'm not actually. I had a death in the family, or I'm dealing with an issue with one of my kids, or I had a breakup, or my wife and I got in a fight, or like whatever. It's like, oh shit,
Just
okay.
don't lose your humanity. Yeah.
Right. Well, Kip, here's what I would say to that. Well, Kip, first, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can help with? You want to go out after work and, go grab a bite or go catch the game or something? Like if you're close, you could do something like that. And that's part of the reason you want to be close to people, is so that you can have these types of conversations. And then that gets addressed and you say, well, look, Kip, the reality is our work still needs to get done. So can I take something off your plate right now? And I would do that. But if it continues to happen over and over and over again, then I think after you've talked with that person, it's probably fair to say at some point you're going to need to make sure the bosses know about what's going on. And that's the reality of it. Because as an employer, they would want to know if somebody's dropping the ball. And you're not tattletaling, you're just being honest about where the hiccups are with the process. And it happens over and over and over again. Yeah. On a professional level, you just stop giving them your time, attention, and energy. It's as simple as that. It's not easy to do, especially if this person's close. But and I don't care if this is your own mom, if somebody keeps dropping the ball when they say they're going to do things, then you create a bigger and bigger boundary between you and them. You thicken that wall up a little bit. And so maybe it's less time, less access, less resources, less attention, and gradually over time. Now, if they start coming around and they start pulling their weight and doing what they need to be doing, and then you haven't cut them off completely yet, well, take a brick down. And another one, and another one, and another one. But they don't get unfettered access just because they got something right when they spent decades doing it wrong. Totally. And guys, that's good for you to know too, because if you and your wife are having a big relational issue and you're like, what's the problem? I've changed. It's like, bro, slow down. You've changed for 30 days. She's used to 12 years of you not doing it. It's going to take a little time before she pulls those bricks down, brick by brick. But yeah, you just cut off access slowly, gradually, and then eventually no access at all. That's what I would say.
Brendan, I have a few thoughts for you. The first off is last year I did some accountability coaching for a group of probably about 20 leaders. Out of that 20, there's probably two out of the 20 that could actually have an accountability conversation. The other 18 couldn't. Why? Because expectations were not clear. We teach people how to deal with us, right? So Ryan and I are working together. And by the way, group accountability diminishes personal responsibility. The minute Ryan swoops in and saves me a couple times, I start going, oh, got it. I'll do some of my part. Ryan will swoop in, finish it off. And if we're not clear, this isn't going to work, right? So you got to be hyper clear with people. What are you responsible for? What are you doing versus what I'm doing? And it's not until you have that conversation can you really have a conversation with someone that, hey, you're dropping the ball. Because it's like, it's unclear. It's all covert contract. It's in your head. We never clarified roles and responsibilities. And we do this all the time in marriages. In fact, I would argue probably one of the key things that we never do in a marriage, most of us, that we should do is define roles. Who's doing what? Who's responsible for what outcomes? But instead, we don't do that because that sounds rigid or whatever. So we'll all be responsible. Well, guess what? Once again, group accountability diminishes personal responsibility. No one's responsible then if we're all doing it. And there might be some element of that, at least from a work perspective.
Tough one. It's hard, man. It's hard when you have
humans,
people that
man,
you want in your life.
Complex.
Yeah, we are. It sucks. It sucks, man. I've had really close people in my life who I just don't really have a great relationship with anymore. I would love to. And the door's open, by the way, too. But you can only drop the ball so often before, again, this goes back to our expectations conversation. I don't have expectations of others, but I also don't have to put myself in their path if they're not living to a standard that I need to see in my life.
Totally. Well, and can I have one more thought really quick, if you don't mind me just throwing this in for Brendan. I had an employee once that was just constantly dropping the ball, right? Laid on getting back to the client, laid on proposals being out, timelines pushed out constantly. And I set the expectations. I had it really clear. And then the next step in the conversation was the importance of not dropping the ball, right? Like I got really present to what we're both aligned with. Like I want to be really clear because we're dealing with human behavior, right? People that are late all the time, they've been late way before they ever got into a relationship with you, right? You're dealing with habits, all kinds of stuff. And so in this particular instance with this employee, I'm like, I got to be really, really clear. When we're late in that statement of work, when we're late getting back to the client, when we're late on these timelines, this isn't me razzing you for some rigid process for the sake of being rigid. It affects trust. Your team members, guess what? They're going to stop giving you work because you don't honor the commitment. People are going to stop inviting you. Clients are going to stop coming here. Like that's how critical this is. And then Ryan, you said something that I said to him in this particular instance is, I would rather have you do half the work and be on time on the other half than you say yes to everything that you're doing. So what can I take off your plate? What can I take off your plate so you can be 100% committed to what I've given you? And let's do that first and show that you can do that. And then I'll give you more, right? And then I transfer more ownership over time. But sometimes we're dealing with humans, mental blocks. Oh, it's not a big deal. They've been telling themselves that ever since they're 12.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, just because they have a job with you, they're going to be now all of a sudden on time and they see how it affects the relationships. They're probably showing up that way at home, with friends, with multiple areas of their life. And so it's a lot more complex than you just saying, hey, you got to honor this. Sometimes we need to help them understand the impact and the cost of their actions on the team. Now, eventually, right, we don't just let it slide, right? Eventually it's like, hey, the impact of this is too much. I got to let you go, right?
Right.
But
yeah. Sweet.
Good stuff.
Well, Kip, I appreciate
All right, that's
you,
all
man.
our questions.
Great questions today.
Yeah.
Guys, right now we're open. We've got a preview call tonight, January 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, theironcouncil.com/preview. Make sure you check that out. I would love to have you there if you're on the fence about joining us in the Iron Council. If you want more information, join us, theironcouncil.com/preview. We'd love to see you there. You get the baseline physical aptitude, as well as the accountability and the coaching and the mentoring and the systems that we use. So it's really going to ramp your success up in 2026. Kip, I appreciate you. Guys, great questions today. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.